Hey, it's Emily, and I'm here to inspire and empower you to become the best version of yourself. Well, I am back. It has been a while since I have made a few videos, and I wanted to kick off this brand new series based on my book that I just published. It is called From Choice to Change. You can now order it off of Amazon, Kindle version, or the paperback version. So if you've been following me on social media, you already know I somewhat kicked this series off, but I am kicking it off today. And I'm going to be taking you through a series of how you go from making a choice to actually making the change. And all of these bullet points that I'll be sharing in this video, all these tips, will be from my book. So if you've already ordered my book, or if you want to order it and follow along, feel free to do so. I will link my book in the description below. And we're just going to get into it. So the very first thing to kick off this series is you always have the power to choose. You always have the power of choice. And so many times we think that we don't have the power to choose. And when we forget that we have the power to choose, what happens, that actually puts us in a scarcity mindset. And we think that we're going to make the wrong decision, or we're not going to make the right decision. And so what kind of tips I wanted to give you today in this video was how to make better choices in your life. And just some quick things to really think about. And then I'm also going to give you some journal prompts you can journal through, just to kind of give you those tools to help you through making those choices, because I know how overwhelming it is when you have so many choices to make and then you feel like you're always going to make the wrong choice or the wrong decision. It can be really overwhelming, and then we just don't make any decision, right? But that's also decision. Not making a decision is also a decision. So in today's video, the first point that I want to make is remembering that you always have the power of choice. And if you see me looking down a lot, I'm looking at my notes. I wrote some specific notes for this because I really wanted to make sure that you guys get the tools that you need to really start making better choices in your life, and just to have that support. Whether you're making good choices or bad choices, or regardless of where you're at now, it's just more knowledge that you have. So if it's not the right choice, remember you always have the choice to choose again. Don't get caught up in the mindset of what if I'm making the right or the wrong choice? And I know that I have been in so many times in my life where I have gotten so caught up in my head of, is this the right choice? Is this the wrong choice? What if I do this? Like, I was so caught up in my head that worried about if I was going to make the right choice or the wrong choice. And I wasted so much energy in that. Had I been able to shift my mindset and shift my perception to going from, is this the right and wrong choice, instead to, does this feel right for me, right? Shifting my perception and also seeing that there are really no right or wrong choices, right? If you think about it, because if you think about all the choices that you made, the ones that you view as wrong choices, more than likely you learned something in your life from that. Some of the most difficult choices I've made, I have learned so much about. As you know, I left the Amish culture. I learned so much by leaving that culture. And I would not go back to that culture, right? Or just like the decision to leave a marriage. I learned so much through that process. It was painful. And in that moment, I kept asking myself, is this the right decision for me? Is this the right decision for my boys? Because not only was I impacting my life, I was impacting a lot of others, right? I was impacting my boys and their dad and all of it to make that choice to leave. And I got really caught up in if it was the right choice or the wrong choice. So if you get caught up in the wrong choice, remind yourself, you always have the power to choose again. You constantly have that power. And don't get caught up in that scarcity mindset of, I only get one choice and then that's it. Because then you're just going to be stuck in fear, right? So don't go down that path. The next point I have is, if you have a very analytical mind like I do, I like to weigh my options, right? I need to know, what are the pros and the cons? And there is nothing wrong with writing down the pros and the cons. What is the good thing about making this choice? What is the bad thing that might be about making this choice? And is it really a bad thing, or is it really a good thing? Like, really question yourself, but from a place of curiosity, not from a place of judgment, not from a place of all the self-judgment, self-doubt, and all this stuff on yourself, but just really get curious about it, right? Ask yourself those questions. So some questions you can ask yourself is, how is this going to affect my life? How is my life going to change if I make this choice? If you're making a huge life decision, ask yourself and make those pros and those cons, and then ask yourself, what is it that you want to choose? The next point I have is, don't be influenced. I have made so many choices where others have influenced me, and then later I regretted making that choice. And this is a really challenging one because a lot of times we cannot validate ourselves, so we look to someone else to validate us. And that is dangerous. That is so dangerous. When we don't know how to validate ourselves and what we want, we look to others and then they'll do it for us, and that influences our choices. And this can be done through your spouse, through your parents, through your family, friends, social media. Like, all of these things influence us. And when you're making choices in your life, don't post it on social media and ask people what you should be doing. Go in within yourself and ask yourself. And some of those times when you make those choices, they're not always going to seem right to everyone else. But you have to stand in your power when you make that choice, right? It's just like when I made the choice to leave the Amish, there wasn't a lot of people saying, oh yeah, go for it. It was completely different opposite, right? But I knew within myself, and I felt good within myself, that that's the choice I needed to make for myself. Did it come with consequences? Yes, it did. Would I go back and choose something differently? No, I would not, right? So it's just something to understand. Don't be influenced by choices and the decisions that you need to make for yourself. Because at the end of the day, no one knows what you need to choose except for yourself. And I know that kind of makes you cringe, right? Because it also makes you take radical responsibility for you and your choices, right? So you have to be responsible for your choices. You can't just have somebody else make those choices for you, but you have to make the choice. And if you stop with the validation, you take the choice and you also take on the responsibility. And for those that influence you to make choices a certain way, the other thing you have to remind yourself is they're not going to be there to take responsibility for that. They're not going to be there, oh yeah, I told you to do that, right? It's going to still be on you. So really be very mindful when you're making choices to not get influenced. The other point I have, and this has been a game changer for me, is how does it feel in my body? And side note, I actually started teaching my boys this, is you always know already how it feels, right? So just a quick exercise you can do is, for example, think of something that you really, really, really enjoy, or that you really, really like, right? It feels like opening feeling, right? Or something that you don't enjoy and you're like, ugh, I just hate that, right? You can see how your body feels differently. So if you close your eyes and you think of something that you really, really enjoy, maybe it's spending time with family, maybe it's working out, maybe it's doing something creative, or whatever it is, being outdoors, like whatever it is, it's something that you really, really enjoy. You'll feel like an opening, right? And then if it's something that you're like, ugh, just kind of makes you cringe inside, you'll feel a closing in your stomach, right? Your gut feeling. And this is why a lot of times people will say, trust your gut. You should trust your gut, because within your body, you know, if you are in tune within your body, which if you are not, start practicing that now and listening to your body, because your body will tell you things that nothing else will. You'll be able to feel it. Just like when you're around people and energy, and you just kind of get that feeling that that person is just off. That energy just doesn't align with me. Listen to those feelings. They're there for a reason. Your body feels that way for a reason. So really tap into your body. It's super, super uncomfortable. I know it is because I've had to practice this myself. It's super uncomfortable, but start trying it. The next tip I have is ask for a sign. And for those out there that struggle with this, trust me, sometimes I ask for a sign for a sign. So I'll say, I really desire that sign, like show me a sign that this is the right path on. And I get very specific, like show me a sign that I'm on the right direction for this item, for this, and for this. Like I want to make sure that I understand that sign. And then sometimes, my mind will play tricks on me and I'll be like, oh, well, I need a sign to know that was a sign. No, you don't. If the sign shows up, it shows up. But ask for specific signs. Maybe it's a butterfly. And then you have to be open to see it, right? So if you see a butterfly, take it as your sign. If you don't see one, that's also a sign, right? So you can ask for a sign. So many times we get so caught up in the way that signs are supposed to appear to us. But it could literally be, if your sign is a butterfly, for example, and you go outside and you see a butterfly, that could be your sign. Or if you're on social media and you see a bunch of butterflies, or whatever your sign is, whether it's a number, whatever it is, pick something that feels right to you and practice this in your life as something small, right? Show me a sign that I need to eat this today. Just practice it and start trusting that, and you'll see you can ask for signs. I'm a firm believer in believing in a higher power, and I'm always divinely guided. So when I ask for a sign, I know I'll get a sign one way or the other. It'll be either a sign of yes or it'll be a sign of no. So it's just really trusting that, and sometimes that can also be very uncomfortable. These are some uncomfortable tips, I know, but they will help you make better choices in your life. And then the next one I have is journal about it. And I'm actually going to give you some journal prompts out of my book. And these are actually on the end of chapter 1. And these journal prompts are some that I actually also use for myself. And I still use them somewhat to this day. They have kind of changed a little bit since I published this. But some journal prompts, when I'm going to make a choice that's based around my life, some that I use is, what is it that I really want in my life? And I actually ask this to myself quite a bit. As I grow and expand as a human, I see myself changing in my life, right? There are things that I'm just growing out of, and I no longer desire that thing. So then I get to come back to the drawing board and ask myself, what is it that I really want in my life? The other one is if I choose myself, what does this choice look like? A lot of times we will choose outside of ourselves. Instead of choosing what we really want, we will choose outside of ourselves. Interesting, right? But we've all been there. So if you can learn how to choose for yourself and for what you desire, not what anybody else desires, but for what you desire, that is where it's at. And then the next journaling prompt is, why am I afraid to make this choice or this decision? What comes up for you? What is it? Maybe you feel like you've always failed at making choices. I had this fear of failure, this fear of making the wrong choice. If you have that, go back and rewrite those limiting beliefs. Rewrite that belief that you have a fear of failing at making choices, and reprogram that, because there really are, again, going back to the start of this video, it's all perception. Even when we label them as right or wrong choices, we learn and we grow and we expand from those. And then the last one goes back to, what is it that I am feeling in my body? You can journal about that. And what does my life look forward if I make this choice? And what does my life look if I don't make this choice? Kind of goes back to the pros and the cons. So those tips, those are just some journaling prompts. Take some time to do the work. Don't be rushed in making your decision, just so that way, know that you have plenty of time. You're not on a timeline, right? And if you are on a deadline, take the time, be intentional, and actually do the work. Like, don't just rush. Don't rush through these decisions. Don't rush through these choices. If it's something that you have a deadline, take that time and actually show up for yourself. So I just kind of want to do a quick recap of what we talked about. We talked about remembering that you have the power of choice. You always have the power of choice. 2, make a pros and cons list. Super easy to do. 3, don't get influenced. Remember, validate yourself. Don't let anybody else validate your decision or your choices. Do it within yourself. You have it within you. Trust me, I know. If I can do it, anybody can do it in the world. 4, ask yourself how it feels in your body. This is really getting in tune with your body. How does it feel? How does your whole reaction, how does your energy shift? 5, ask for a sign. And the last one, 6, was journal about it. And those are the journaling prompts I gave you. So if you need to, rewind, go back, listen to those journal prompts. And if you have any questions, any comments, or you want me to cover a different topic, let me know in the comments below. And I will be back next week for part 2 of the series From Choice to Change, based on my book From Choice to Change.